Hello and welcome to everyone that has joined us today on this live How HireQuotient and OMG guarantee sales hiring success. And I know you're all interested in this, but before we kind of delve into what we're talking about today, we love to hear from you. So please do post your comments and questions, and we'll have some time at the end for Mary and myself to answer all of your questions. So I've got the comments open, keep them coming. We love to hear from our audience. So I am your host, Janice B. Gordon, a customer growth expert and founder of Scale Your Sales Framework and podcast. I'm really happy to announce that Scale Your Sales podcast has reached 5 years. Whee! 5 years of the podcast, and I've had Mary on them. We've been doing some lives before the summer. It's all on LinkedIn, so please do go back. We've discussed some really interesting subjects, haven't we, Mary? AI, the future of work. But first, let me introduce Mary, because I never have enough time to do this, and she is amazing, as you all know. So if you haven't already heard of Mary Shea, where on earth have you been? Really? Like, Mary's previously served as co-CEO of Mediafly, the well-known revenue enablement firm, and was also the chief evangelist of sales execution at the Unicorn Outreach, a principal analyst at Forrester Research. Now, today, in her role as general manager of HireQuotient for North American business, Mary brings 25 years of commercial and operational leadership experience to the AI first firm of HireQuotient. So welcome, Mary.
Janice, thank you so much. It's so great to be here. And yeah, it's great to be with your audience. So good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. It's great to be part of this session.
Yeah, well, it's a great subject because we both have different platforms that work really well together. And we thought it was a really good opportunity to help the audience understand how they can hire particularly for sales role better. And, the context here is that most sales operations track record in hiring salespeople is it's a bit hit and miss, more often miss. And this can be really expensive in that it can cost anything between $100,000 to up to $1 million in lost time, revenue, and customers. And those that hire, but really when it's miss, a good 76% of those candidates fell within 6 months. So, there's such a high turnover in the industry. And Mary, we need to start to mitigate the risk, reduce the cost, and guarantee success. So tell me more about how and why sales hiring is critical to driving sales success, and how HireQuotient's on a mission with the AI company to solve a lot of this.
Yeah, thank you so much, Janice. And I mean, it was a wonderful introduction and context setting on your part. I've been a CRO, and now I'm general manager of HireQuotient and overseeing our North American customer base. And, hiring as a sales leader is absolutely crucial. And you mentioned that I taught at University of Chicago's Business School. When I taught there, I was teaching a sales course, a go-to-market course, and I had a simulation. And the students actually needed to simulate being a sales rep and then being a sales manager. And once they got to being a sales manager, they actually had to make hires, and they got penalized if they made bad hires and rewarded if they made good hires. So you're absolutely right. Hiring is crucial. If you're a head of sales, you should be really evaluating talent constantly. You should have a rich, ripe pipeline ready to go. There's a couple of things that have changed today versus when I was the chief revenue officer. And today now, what we're looking at is companies of all shapes and sizes need to do more with less. So that means you've got to drive more growth with less sales resources. And, when I was a CRO, I could hire 2 or 3 people when I needed another $1 million. And part of that was knowing that 1 or 2 weren't going to make it and the one would make it. So I've always got the overassignment. Today, we can't do that. So that means you've got to get it right out of the gate right away. And it's also really hard being a revenue leader because there's so many other pressing issues that you need to deal with on a day-to-day basis, whether it's closing big deals, whether it's personnel, whether it's creating, and updating your strategy, whether it's dealing with an unhappy customer. It's just constant. And so it is very easy to delegate the hiring to your people partner, your HR partner, or just not focus the amount of time and energy that you should be doing on it. And so at HireQuotient, Janice mentioned, we're an AI first company, and we've developed a sourcing tool that uses proprietary AI as well as some of the commercial models that you would know, along with very powerful automation. And what it does is essentially streamlines that first 3/4 of the candidate recruiting process. Our software is easy to use, and line managers and sales can use it, revenue leaders, and I actually used it when I was co-CEO of the revenue enablement company that Janice mentioned. So it allows you to quickly access passive and active candidates, rate and rank those candidates against your key criteria. And then, for those of you who know my background, I love workflow cadences. We have a cadence that allows you, the sales manager, sales leader, or your HR partner, to put the qualified candidates on a campaign in a multi-channel outreach that's highly customized, hyper-personalized, but can be done at scale through automation. And I'll tell you a little bit more about how that works as we move forward. So, I think about 3 key levers in today's environment for revenue leaders to drive peak performance. First is talent. Without people, you're not going to be able to succeed. So ensuring you access and hire the right talent is critical. The next is enablement, ensuring that you are able to enable all of your sellers in an effective and efficient way. And then the third is technology. So those are your 3 levers: talent, tech, and enablement. I already talked about this a little bit, so we can click through here, but I mean, recruiting's a headache. It's the last thing you want to do as a sales leader, but you have to do it. You should be doing it. So recruitment automation is here to help. If you think about where I spent, the last 20 years of my career, it was really focusing on sales and marketing technologies that were going to be transformational for the business and for those functional areas of the business. We saw marketing automation scale up in the early 2000s, and then we saw consolidation. Then we saw in around 2015 and beyond the advent of sales efficiency, sales enablement, sales execution technologies, and some consolidation and some still progress there in those organizations. Well, I'd been thinking as I was an analyst at Forrester for a long time that the HR professional was kind of like the next area where we were going to see significant digital transformation. And so at HireQuotient, the company has really applied some of the great technologies, but they're much more sophisticated and mature now, that we use in marketing and sales, but using it for recruitment and hiring. And so we call this category recruitment automation. And, it's not, like I said, not just for your HR partners, but for your heads of sales and your line management, and your business partners in HR. This is just a really quick dashboard of, that shows you what our software looks like. On the left-hand side and the micro side of the left-hand side, you can see I've built just a very, very quick high-level search for someone with some basic requirements. We go out and we find candidates that generally fit into those requirements. And then the next part of the screen on the left side, really we're doing prompt engineering and writing sentences in around exactly what we want from a must-have or nice-to-have perspective. In a matter of seconds, our software will go out and scrape data and put together rich profiles. And that data is from an aggregate of sources, from all of the job sites that you might know, to public websites, to social media sites, to Crunchbase and others. All of this is done in a matter of seconds, which is amazing. And on the right-hand side of this, you can see the the cadence, email, text, LinkedIn, and also email. And so you, as a sales leader, can set up a cadence once you've found the candidates you want to talk to and get them into the mix. And I'll talk a little bit more in detail about that as we get deeper into the discussion. I wanted to share just a mini case example because in addition to looking after our North American business at HireQuotient, I was actually a customer for about 12 months. And it was a unique situation. I had raised 50 million in venture capital, which was very difficult at the time. It was about, I think, almost a year ago, if not a little bit more than a year ago, Janice. And we had a new financial partner. And the reason I mention that is because when you're a CEO, you still do have a boss. It's usually your board and your financial partners. And so I had a new boss, and they asked us to be cash flow positive, cash flow break even rather, in 2 quarters. So we had to be very agile. And one of the challenging things about the role, and very difficult in terms of the human impact, was that we needed to reduce the size of the organization by about a third. We had gone through several acquisitions and were carrying a number of people who were really duplicative to folks we already had in the organization. And so sadly, we did need to reduce the size of the company about a third to get on this path to break even. Then simultaneously, I needed to hire some very, very critical positions on the go-to-market side, from chief customer officer down to individual contributor and a couple in between. I didn't use the software for everything. It tends to work really well in some of the specialized, hard to find roles. And then one of the other challenges is that I had not the ability to go out and hire an external recruiting firm. Back in the day, I would have absolutely spent 100,000 or 80,000. I had friends who were willing to say, "Hey, I'm going to give you a discount for your chief customer officer role," but I wanted to make sure that I was being really fiscally prudent. And if I spent money, I wanted to spend on a revenue generating role in marketing or sales or somewhere else. And I had a relatively junior recruiter, and I was working with that individual personally, in addition to all the other things that a CEO naturally does. And the results were transformational. So if you go to the next slide, Janice, I think I can take folks through some of the specifics of what I was looking for on one unique role. This was an IC role, an individual contributor role, and the sales rep had to be based in Europe. Well, interestingly enough, because SAP was a very big strategic partner for the company, and this person was going to interface with SAP go-to-market professionals and executives as part of that role, I needed that person to, number one, not be in London, not be in the UK, because the level of acceptance from the partner company would not be there. So we needed someone who was at a minimum, lived on the continent, spoke German and English relatively fluently. And ideally, we would have loved another language too, of some of the Southern Europe countries and what have you. The other thing was we needed a self-starter and someone who had pretty good technical know-how, because we didn't have a lot of support in region. This person was going to be out on their own, and we couldn't have our chief partner officer getting up at 4 in the morning and 3 in the morning to do calls and left and right. It just wasn't sustainable. So they were going to have to not only sell and engage in partner activities, but they were also going to have to be essentially their own sales engineer. So we needed someone who we could trust, who was experienced and who was technically savvy. And naturally, we wanted SaaS experience, someone who knew revenue enablement and had worked with SAP. And so I panicked a little bit when I really thought about the specificity of these criteria, because all my contacts, as Janice knows, are in London. I mean, that's where I've spent my time. Maybe Dublin too, but that was about it. And so while I have a rich network of connections, I just didn't have folks on the continent. And like I said, I couldn't spend the money to go to an outside agency. So that's why I hired HireQuotient, among other things. And the results were phenomenal. We actually filled that role in 3 weeks, which I never could have imagined doing. And as you know, in sales, every week that you have an open position, that's another week that you're not going to hit your quota. And so the pressure is very high for go-to-market leaders and go-to-market unfilled positions. I think I covered this a little bit earlier. So this is the initial search. We send the AI out to search a wide range of horizontal properties. And even though we're displaying these relevant candidates in sort of their LinkedIn, we're looking across LinkedIn, Monster, ZipRecruiter, Indeed, a range of, like I said, public and proprietary sources to start to build a collection of candidates who might fit the bill. You can go to the next one, Janice. Yeah, this sounds great. So we start sourcing, we use the AI, we use the prompt engineering, it's super simple. And then what I love about the technology is that the practitioner, the sales manager, the HR professional is working with the software. Software is just not going off on its own with bots evaluating bot created resumes. I mean, that's just not where I think we're going to add the humanity in the recruiting process. And part of what we want to do, we're a mission-based company, is to create better experiences for candidates, faster results for the business, and also provide some opportunity for technology consolidation and cost reduction. So here you can see this is the process, and the part of the process I mentioned where we're looking at ranking the candidates. And you can see we've got a couple of 5-star candidates right here. What you would do is toggle over the candidate. You'd immediately see how they relate to your must-have and nice-to-have skills. And you can give a thumbs up and thumbs down on each candidate. Maybe you'll do that for 3 or 4. And a little text box will open up and you can communicate with the AI and let them know what you like about the candidate, what you don't like. And then the tech will lean into more of what you like, less of what you don't. And you can see here on the bottom right-hand side that you can see exactly how the candidate relates to the criteria you built in your prompt. We'll go to the next one, Jens. And then here's where we go back to my world of sales engagement and sales execution. This is the cadence that you can do. And in addition to using the AI to find the candidates, and as you know, sourcing is not terribly dissimilar from business development work we do in sales. Once you have a collection of candidates that you want to talk to, your next natural stage is you want to reach out to them and schedule a screening meeting. Well, we use this multi-channel hyper-personalized messaging for each individual candidate. You drop your own template in for email, LinkedIn connection, email, and text as well, and you spread those out over a period of time. You can see the template here on the left side, and in the red box on the left-hand lower side, I've written in a prompt to have the AI describe in 20 to 30 words why this candidate to them is a great fit for the role. Why are we doing that? We're doing it for personalization. And as you know, the more personalized communication you get, the higher level response rates you're going to get. And so if you look on the right side, what happens is the AI in a matter of 1 to 2 seconds will populate all 50 people or 100 people or 25 people that you've set up on this campaign or project. And each individual, each channel is going to have a hyper-personalized message. And you can see it here in the red box. I think you would be perfect fit for this opportunity we have, especially because we've proven success in exceeding sales quotas and I think it says managing multiple BDAs or MVPs. I can't read it. I've got to increase the size of the screen, but you get the message, and it's from me. What I also typically do is drop in my calendar link, and so you can set up your campaign. You can even put it on autopilot, and then you can do other more strategic things. Our software is not looking to replace the talent professional or the sales manager in the recruiting process. As you know, Janice, we are looking to augment, just like we do in sales and marketing. We still need that human connection. And our vision, our view is that the machines are great at the repetitive manual and administrative activity that happens in that first 3 quarters of the candidate recruitment cycle. Once you've got someone who's interested, then that's where the humans come in. That's where the sales manager comes in and evaluates, builds a relationship. And because this is such a simple process to do, we've got the sales manager and the HR professional out of the minutia and the admin and into the high value human activities.
I love that, Mary. And you know, this is exactly why I wanted to discuss this opportunity for many people are listening on the call and will listen in the recording. The more we can get it out there so people can understand that we don't have to keep recycling the same old poor sellers and just using LinkedIn or the obvious resources. The broader your reach, you're more able to fulfill those niches. So thank you for that, Mary. I know that you we're wanting as many questions as possible. So I know that you're going to be coming in and answering more questions. And I just really wanted to start to present the resource that I have and the reasons why I think it works really well. Often I see sales leaders that will go to recruiters, and Mary mentioned it could be, you know, $80,000, $100,000 dollars, and there's no guarantee of success because they don't know what else to do. They don't know where else to go. Well, now we've introduced HireQuotient, and this can be a do it yourself to make sure that you fulfill the role. But once you've found the perfect clients, or you've got a better resource of finding the right person for the job, how do you know? How do you assess them? How do you onboard them? How do you ensure that you retain that great resource? Now, we know for the last 30 years, fewer than 50% of sales professionals hit target. And so, you know, if you're one of those sales leaders, CRO, CEOs, you're not alone. This is quite typical for the industry, but we're really looking at why and how we can overcome this. And the answer is really you need to apply, you know, more data to the way that we research and we hire our valuable resources and apply that to the whole sales operation. Now, I'm a partner in OMG, which has had a database that they've been collecting for over 30 years. So we're able to interrogate a lot of that data. It's also the only sales-specific, accurate and predictive, which meaning on-the-job performance. It predicts the on-the-job performance. So you can identify salespeople who are going to be successful in the roles that you're trying to fill, who are going to be successful in the culture you're trying to fill them into. And so I just wanted to share, I've got so many slides here, a few slides with you just to kind of explain a bit more about this resource. So what I'm thinking here is that you use HireQuotient. That's brilliant at going outside the usual recycled pool to gather the right people for the right positions. But then our position is that you would give them the assessment. So this company, as I say, has been going for the last 30 years. It has won several awards. So Inside Sales, top sales assessment tool for the 11 consecutive years being #1. And outside of the sales arena, you'll see on the right, it's one of the top 20 evaluation tools from a training point of view. So it's got a lot of success, and it's tried and tested. When we're looking at the traditional way of hiring, we will often start with, if you could see this here, 50 resumes or so, but it will take us a good 20 hours, and it's still a 50-50 chance if that person is going to work out. What we're proposing on the right hand side is that you would get your applications as normal, but you don't spend time looking at the resumes until you've put them through an assessment process. So they fill in a link. It takes anything from half an hour to 30 minutes. If they're not going to do that, they're really not interested in the role. And I'm going to show you the kind of results that you get when you do this. you would get recommended, not recommended. You're only going to interview the people that are recommended, because remember I said this is predictive for on the job. You want to know the people that are going to succeed on the job. And if we were to compare these two methodologies, would you prefer to spend 50 hours and it be 50-50, or 5 hours and you have a guaranteed rate of success? I know which one I would choose. And if we look at the results, if you went down this route, you get a staggering 92% of those recommended and hired through the assessment process. They're guaranteed to be in the top quartile within a year. Now, those that are not recommended, because, as sales industry, we think we know best, 76% of those candidates that fail within 6 months. Those are not recommended. Those, if you go down your own route. Now, this has got a 30-year history, 2.6 million previous assessments over 200 industries and 52 countries. So we know what great looks like. We know what, the top people in your industry for your sector, we know what qualities make success. So I'm just going to play a little video for you here and talk you through the database of what you would get. So let's say you intend to hire 3, maybe 30 salespeople in 1 year. So you would get a license for the 3 or the 30. And then it doesn't matter. For one role, you could assess 100 people. There is no limit on the number that you assess. And they're either recommended, not recommended, or worthy of consideration. So one of the key drivers of success is will to sell. You could call it grit or drive. Absolutely essential for sales success. It's almost impossible to interview for. And then sales DNA measures a salesperson's belief or limiting beliefs. And these can negatively impact how they interact with customers. So think of the people that might need approval, or those that are uncomfortable discussing money. And then we have tactical measures as part of this assessment. This measures the selling capabilities. Now, much of tactical competencies can be trained, or they're coachable, things like hunting or selling value. And this is often what we're assessing for in other roles, but they're not necessarily the things that make you successful. So when we think of other, think of compatibility. Compatibility is different to other criteria in that it tests for skills and strengths necessary for success in the selling role. And the scores reflect the alignment between what you want to hire for, the requirements of the role, and actually the applicants, the candidate's most experience and past performance. So, the techniques for long-term retention. Think of this assessment. You turn it into your coaching and onboarding document. So you have all of this gold, this information, how to switch on that candidate, how they best like to be motivated, is it intrinsic or not? So it's much easier to make sure you retain, you're able to coach the individual rather than the team, the individual, to make them the most successful that they can be. Okay, so Mary, I know Mary needs to go, and so I'm just going to bring her back and ask for her last words here. Ooh. There you go, Mary.
Hey everyone, thanks Janice. And yeah, I'm so enthusiastic about the future of work, the ways we work, the impact that generative AI is going to have on us as business leaders, as individual contributors, and let me know how we can help. If anyone wants to just talk about the impact of AI and automation on how to bring more humanity into the hiring process and to streamline that process in a way that allows you to get results faster, just reach out to me. You can reach me on LinkedIn or Mary at HireQuotient.com. always love to chat with everybody, and thanks for the opportunity, and have a great day.
Thank you, Mary. Thank you. Excellent. So I just want to wrap up here and talk to you about my next live session. Hopefully you've got some real value out of what Mary and I have talked about. So really think of, we need to dip outside of our usual pool and keep recycling poor salespeople because we feel that something's better than nothing. There's a much better way to do it. Would you prefer to spend 20 hours or 5 hours? Would you prefer to get a guarantee of success and be able to identify that niche person that's absolutely perfect for your role? This is a great way of doing it. We know in sales managers are not always that great at coaching, and coaching is the thing that fires up our sales team. So imagine if you had the guidelines to how to fire up that individual. This assessment allows you to do it. So not only in terms of hiring, but in terms of assessing your existing sales team as well. You know, often I meet leaders that are joining a new team and you have no idea what you've got to work with. Well, you assess the team, and this gives you almost like that crystal ball. You know how to turn on people, you know the ones that are in the wrong positions and the ones that perhaps, you know, it's time for them to move on. And it's actually a lot easier, in my experience, moving people on when they know, they can see the assessment and they agree with what's been said, and they're happy to kind of move into an area that's more in line with their zone of genius. So I really wanted to introduce this to you. Please do contact myself and Mary. So my next session is on the 10th of October. I'll be talking to Richard Harris, and we're going to be having a bit of a debate there. So thank you so much for joining myself and Mary on the live today. If you have any questions, you've got the links there. Please do come back to us. We're happy to talk to you about this. All right, well, make sure you're recruiting in the smart way.